Okay, good morning, everyone. Before we get started and I explain all the rules, I'm going to turn this over to Pastor Washington. He will do our invocation, and then immediately following, everybody just remain standing, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Washington.
Dear gracious God, we're gathered here together for the minds that are running for elections. We pray that they will be able to be obsessed and be observed and pay attention to the hearts of their visions. We pray, God, for success and for great accomplishment for those citizens that they will be able to have wisdom over and government over. For wisdom, justice, and judgment reside in your throne. And we pray your grace and mercy be with us now in the name of the Most High. Amen.
All right, I'll direct everyone's attention to the flag. Let's go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, everybody go ahead and take a seat, please. All right, on behalf of Veterans of Politics International and also Nevada Veterans Association and Armed Forces Chamber PAC, we want to thank both candidates for coming in. We will be conducting our joint endorsement interviews. So basically the way this will work is each panel member will ask you guys a question. Remember, this isn't a debate. So therefore, you can't debate each other, essentially. So when you're asked a question from a panel member, just direct your answer directly to the panel member. The panel member, before they ask you a question, will give their name and title. We're going to give both of you 45 seconds to introduce yourself and why exactly you're running. Okay. So how the timing works is when you have 15 seconds left, I'll give you the yellow. And when your time is up, you'll get a red. I'm not going to be rude and interrupt you mid-sentence, but once you get the red, you need to wrap up as soon as possible. Also, I want you to include, when you're doing your introduction, why you're seeking our endorsements, okay? So before we get started with that, I wanted to give a special thanks to our sponsors, Shelley Berkeley, running for Las Vegas mayor, Carrie Maxey, who's running for Family Court Department N, and Monica Larson, who's running for Henderson City Council Ward 2. At this time, I'll turn it over to the candidates to give their 45-second introduction. You guys can decide which one goes first.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here today to listen to my judicial philosophy. My name is Tina Talim, and I am your judge in Department 14 of District Court. I was appointed by the governor in June, and now I'm running to retain my seat. Prior to being appointed to the bench, I have had a very successful 20-year career as a litigator. I started out in civil practice, and then I spent the next 19 years of my practice as a public servant as a prosecutor with the Clark County District Attorney's Office. Before I left the office, I was in charge of prosecuting some of the highest, most dangerous cartel members in our community, and I am committed to public service. The reason I want the endorsement of the panelists here today is because you have also committed to public safety, the community, and the country.
My name is Alan Lefebvre. I'm running for Department 14. On my website, which I shared with Steve, I emphasize my expertise in civil practice. Actually, the state bar says we can't say that. My long experience in civil practice. I moved here many years ago with all my stuff in the back of my Chevy Nova. I was able to enjoy a wonderful civil practice. I have no criminal experience to speak of. These are civil courts. I'm seeking your endorsement because of your dedication to serving the interests of veterans. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll start with panel members' questions. For this portion, you guys will get 1 minute to respond to our questions. So the order we'll do it for this round is I'll ask the first question and we'll go to Frank, then JP, and then we'll work around this way. Okay, so my question, and all questions will be answered by both candidates. Each of you guys will have a chance to respond. We won't direct it specifically towards one candidate, okay? So my question is, if elected, will you be engaged with your legislative liaison to address concerns you and or your peers have with NRS statutes regarding sentencing guidelines or fines? Tina, do you want to go, Judge?
So I am the incumbent in Department 14. As far as working with the legislature, I believe in complete transparency, and that's another reason that I want the endorsement of veterans in politics and the joint interview endorsements that I'm seeking here this morning. I believe in complete transparency. But I also believe, and this is my judicial philosophy, that my role is to apply the law, follow the law as written. If I wanted to be a legislator, I would have joined the legislature. I believe in separation of the executive, the judicial, and the legislative branches. I think having an open channel of communication is always important, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's the Nevada revised statutes. I strongly believe in being clear and with my position and having that channel of transparency and communication. Specific to the sentencing guidelines, there is a lot of discretion that judges have when it comes to sentencing. So there is a minimum range and a maximum range when we're talking about the criminal field. And the judges, before they... See, I just kept speaking. And judges, before they offer and decide what an appropriate sentence should be, they look at all the facts of the case. They look at defendant's background. So I believe there is a lot of discretion already given to the judges, and it's not my position to advocate for changes in law, but to follow the law as written.
Apologize for that new phone.
Yes, I believe there should be an active interchange with the legislature on sentencing guidelines. The fact of guilt or innocence is more or less objective. What happens to somebody when they're sentenced is very, very crucial. If somebody with a violent background and is found guilty, they're really hamstrung. Their connection to the community is, if they're sent to NSP, is completely cut off and destroyed. They're immediately in breach of their lease. They're in breach of their having their car taken away. Their credit is destroyed. So I think that sentencing people to jail, while it's the responsibility of a court, the legislature has to come in and that's why I think that it's very important that the legislature and the judiciary work together. I don't think that judges should sit in isolation on those things. They have to realize how drastic sentencing someone to jail time is.
Frank, you want to ask your question?
How you doing? I'm Frank Friends. I'm a family court observer with Veterans in Politics. So doing a lot of court observing myself, I've seen a lot of judges legislate from the bench. Now, the biggest new thing is DEI, where people think that the skin color or the sex of the person on trial actually matters at all and should be taken into account to their sentencing, like you guys are talking about. Would you, as a judge, just take the morals and the merits of the case in front of you based upon background and times offended and reoffended in the offense itself into account and exclude the sex and race of the perpetrator? Or are you going to add that in there to higher or lower sentences?
Do you want us to alternate questions?
It doesn't matter.
So this question is famously asked of people appearing in front of the Senate all the time. And one of our local federal judges was asked, the question is, does social justice enter into sentencing? And this judge on our federal bench refused to answer. And I think that the answer to the question is no, it shouldn't enter into the sentence to be given. But all of the other circumstances of the offense, the circumstances, the degree of prior criminal records, et cetera, should be considered. And the question is whether there's a safety to the public or not with this particular individual being sentenced and remaining in society. So it's a drastic thing, the power to send somebody to jail and incarcerate them, put them in a cage for a long time, and then have all the other consequences which flow from that and the destruction of their personal lives.
So I am very proud to say that I'm the first South Asian Indian American judge on the bench in the history of the state of Nevada. So does diversity matter? Absolutely, diversity matters. Diversity of thought matters. Diversity of experience matters. And I've been a pro se litigant in family court. And so I believe a judge's job is to follow the law. Should a judge take into account the color of someone's skin? No. Absolutely not. Should the judge take into account circumstances of an individual? I believe yes. And we have veterans in this room. We have veterans court because society and our community recognizes people's circumstances and life experiences matter. And that's true of whether you're a defendant in a case. That's true of whether you're a victim of a crime. So I think it's the judiciary's responsibility to make sure that we are looking at all of the facts and circumstances, and certainly life experience matters.
Good morning, Joaquin Perry Edwards, Armed Forces Chamber PAC. My question is for both individuals. Community engagement is a key responsibility of Clark County District Judge. During your tenure at Clark County District Attorney's Office, you served as the first Director of Diversity and Community Outreach. Actually, this is for Judge Talim. Okay. Yeah, I looked at the top there. Sorry about that. Where was that? Director of Diversity and Community Outreach, where you focused on fostering genuine connections with the diverse community in Clark County. If elected, how do you plan to continue to expand your community engagement efforts?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. My heart is as a public servant, and I believe part of public service is connecting with the community. Yes, I advocated for the creation of that position. Never in the 115-year history of the Clark County District Attorney's Office was there a Director of Diversity and Community Outreach. I advocated for the position. I created the position. I was appointed as the director. This was in addition to handling all of my criminal cases, meeting with victims, meeting with police officers, advocating for the most vulnerable people of our society. So community service is at the heart of what I do. I have dedicated 19 years of my life to community service, serving the public. I believe one of the roles of the judiciary is to educate our community, and that comes by way of community service, engaging with various members of our community, whether that is the LGBTQ community, the veterans groups. I was the first and only prosecutor who has ever been asked to speak as the keynote speaker for Blacks in criminal justice. That was incredible. That was a highlight of my career, and that is a testament to my commitment to community service, and that's something I intend to do as a sitting judge because I believe that's the duty that the judiciary owes to the community.
Andre Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber PAC. My question's for you, Mr. Lefebvre. Did I say that correct? Okay, all right. In 2018, you ran for Nevada Supreme Court seat, and Alyssa Kaddish was victorious. In 2024, she ran unopposed. Why are you running against Judge Tina and not against your past opponent, Justice Kaddish?
a statewide, as I found, a statewide campaign is very, very difficult. The Supreme Court, that was in a primary with 5 other people, and there was a lot of confusion there. There was, an endorsement by Adam Laxalt of Jerry Tao, and that really kind of messed things up. I have no objection with how Her Honor has fulfilled her job. I think she's done a good job. I don't know Judge Talim. The seat was open until, I believe, her appointment was June 13. So I'm not aiming my campaign against her. I'm running because of a severe deficiency that exists in our courts, general jurisdiction, criminal and civil, with people who don't know what they're doing in civil cases. And I'll tell that right to a judge's face. It's a dire situation. Lawyers' fees are incredibly destructive.
Come on. Okay. Patsy Brown, president of Armed Forces Chamber, and my question is for both of you. Judges sometimes encounter cases where existing statutes or precedents do not sufficiently address the legal issues at hand. In such instances, judicial decisions play a crucial role in filling gaps in the law. Can you provide an example from your career where this occurred and explain how, if elected, you would approach a similar case to establish new case law?
So one of the great things about having a career, a 20-year career that is current and relevant, are the colleagues and the friends that I have on the bench and as litigators. So I am in a great position because of my current and relevant experience to when there is an issue and I'm not sure which way to decide, that I am comfortable leaning on a lot of experience that we have on the bench. So I think a lot of it is, as a judge, you can't predetermine how you're going to rule on something. You have to look at the facts in front of you, the arguments of counsel, you rely on the briefings, you have to read every single case that's briefed. So I think the most critical thing is to be knowledgeable and also to be humble. When you don't know something, you can have conversations with your law clerks, you can have conversations with other members of the judiciary, so you're confident that you are making the best decision under the given circumstances.
Gaps in the law in Nevada are something that's frequently encountered. And so consulting one's peers, the other judges, really has to be taken very seriously before it's embarked upon. And in fact, it could have serious ethical implications if one goes and defers to another judge about how to decide a matter. Many times we look to out-of-state law. We look to where the statute, let's assume that's what your question is about. We have to look to where the statute came from. We have to look at what the courts in those jurisdictions have decided about it. And then we have to hope for the best based upon public policy that we see from other legislative enactments in that particular area of the law. That sounds a little bit abstract, but you hope to fill in with what would the legislature do if this question had been presented to them. We have very good appellate courts, and unhappily, that's what they're there for, despite the expense. And that's why you have to have a very good civil judge in cases of civil law, because I had a client who paid me $1 million, literally, over 2 years, and in the district court, our local district court, and roughly a third of that sum was based upon the judge equivocating, and then finally on the eve of trial decided questions that had been presented to the court 2 years before. So the attorney's fees are destructive.
Hi, sorry. Hi, good morning. Barbara Leuschen with Veterans in Politics. My question is, I know the judges are not making the laws, but I want to talk about a little bit about the DUI situation out here. Do you feel, in just your opinion, that we need to change them and increase the way that we handle them? The DUIs out here. Do you believe that we should get the DUIs a little bit more? Should we should we increase the DUI laws? Do you think?
So I understand why you're asking the question. DUIs are impact the community, they impact the individuals involved, and they are in many ways, it could happen to any of us to be in an accident, being hit by a drunk driver. So I understand why you're asking the question. And I also appreciate your opening comments that I can't tell you my personal opinion. These are cases that may come in front of me, but I do believe community safety is number one. So I've dedicated 19 years of my life to community safety. That's been my number one goal. And I'm talking about public safety. So, and you know, I will say that running in a district court campaign is not easy either. I understand it's not statewide, but I'm certainly not doing this because it's the easy thing to do. I'm doing this because I'm a public servant and protection of the community is number one. So while I can't opine, it wouldn't be appropriate under the judicial canons as to what I believe a law should or should not be. I can tell you that I understand the ramifications of a DUI and what that means to our community. That is top of mind.
The DUI laws are important to enforce. The matter usually comes to the district court after arraignment below in another, in the municipal court or the justice court. A lot of times it has implications in civil law, in the fact of increased penalties and when people hurt others in an accident. I also have some degree of sympathy. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I haven't had a drink since 2001. And I appreciate the difficulty that alcoholics face. But I can't have sympathy for anyone who drives and drinks and is involved in a car accident or is simply picked up for DUI. So, difficult issue, but are you asking whether the threshold should be reduced?
Yeah, increase big time.
Yeah, I think it should be. Yeah. Oh, and the repeat offenders are, I'm shocked all the time at what occurs. I'm not a judge, so I can opine on that.
How you doing, Frank Friends? So Nevada is a state that does have the death penalty. We haven't executed anybody in, 40, 50 years. And you may see some of these cases where they may come across your desk. We just spent, I think, $8.9 million on a brand new facility for execution. And we have cases sitting there now where they are on camera killing a pregnant woman while robbing a store. And these judges will sit at the bench and litigate to not have the death penalty there. If a death penalty case such that there is video evidence and they are 100% guilty came across your docket, would you try to legislate from the bench if the people were seeking the death penalty to do life in prison instead? Both of you.
My last two trials were death penalty cases. I have tried to verdict 35 felony trials, and that ranges from commercial burglaries to sexual assaults committed on children to murder and capital cases. what I can tell you, and again, I appreciate the question. I cannot tell you how my personal opinion on something, but I think my experience speaks for itself. As a judge, I want to make sure everyone understands the decision to seek death is from the district attorney's office. The decision to pursue seeking death is from the prosecutors trying the case. The decision to sentence someone to death is up to a jury, not the judge. So I appreciate the question. Thank you.
As a judge, I would not attempt to in any way inhibit the application of the death penalty. It all depends upon the quality of the proof. If there's a confession, a videotape of the incident, and there truly is objectively proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and a judge can be satisfied about that, the judge should do nothing to attempt to skew the trial so that it isn't applied and the jury doesn't consider it. And the judge has to weed out people who say they wouldn't apply the death penalty. Really, you have to remember that it's mostly minority communities who are affected by criminals who do commit heinous crimes. You read the paper every day, and where do these death penalty worthy crimes occur? It's mostly in minority neighborhoods, people from the outside terrorizing the community. So the answer is I would not hesitate.
James Jonas, Director of Veterans and Politics International. Before I ask my question, I just want to apologize. Judge, new phone, I'm having some issues with it, so I apologize for that. But my question is specifically for you, Judge, to kind of follow up on Frank's first question about DEI. You said diversity is very important, but then you said that you just look at the character. So my whole thing, can you clarify that a little bit more? Because my personal belief is that judges should be colorblind. Like race, color, gender should not matter at all. So I don't think that should be a factor at all. So how do you, but you're a human. So you obviously, when you look at me, you see a white male. How do you make sure that that isn't a part of the decision at all? It's specifically how I respond in court or my attorney does.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to clarify that. And if it caused any confusion, I certainly apologize. Here's what I mean when I say diversity matters, right? Diversity in thought matters from the bench. Having a judiciary and a state bar that looks like the communities it serves is important to build trust in the judiciary. Whether I would allow race, sexual orientation, gender, any protected class, whether I would allow that to factor into my decisions, that's a no. What I want to get across is we are all humans and we are human beings. And when you come into my courtroom, I want everybody to know that you will be treated with dignity and respect. And I will know the facts of the case, and I will know the pre-sentencing investigation report. I will know your childhood history. I will know whether you've struggled with substance abuse. I will know your prior criminal history, if there is one. All of those things matter. And so you cannot remove someone's upbringing, their social circumstances, their socioeconomic status when you're coming to those decisions, and that information is actually provided to the judge in a pre-sentencing investigation report. It certainly doesn't, it's not the end all be all, but certainly those things should be considered in the calculus.
Andre Haynes, Armed Forces Chamber PAC. Thank you both for being here. While researching you both, I appreciate the diversity in both of your experience, criminal and civil. You're on the bench now. You're running to be on the bench. How would both of you make up the gap or the lack of experience in the area separate from your, can't say specialty, but separate from your experience? How will you make that up? Because yours is civil. I looked up yours, and yours is criminal.
Ask me where I was last week. I was presiding over a civil trial. Ask me where I'm going to be next week. I will be presiding over a civil trial. I have a foundation in civil litigation. I interned with civil firms when I was in law school. I started my career in civil. It's disingenuous to say that I have no civil experience. The foundation is there. You know, and I think what's also critical is I don't want there to be any confusion that this is a civil docket and it will forever remain a civil docket. Within the next few months, my docket, Department 14, will have a split docket. So I will have a criminal calendar, and I have, again, a strong foundation in civil law. I'm the incumbent. I practice, and not practice, but I am presiding over civil cases every single day, all day. When I go into a criminal docket, I have the experience there. And you know, being in trial, there are objections lodged in a civil trial and in the criminal trial. Those are same whether you're in civil or criminal. So my experience speaks for itself.
First of all, let me correct one misimpression, most respectfully. Civil cases are mostly decided on motions, and that depends upon deciding those intelligently depends upon one having the background to decide them. Mechanics lien was the notice of pre-service notice given correctly? Was it mailed correctly? All sorts of details that really make your teeth ache. With regard to criminal cases, I was a law clerk for a year, and I was really very naive 25-year-old back in those days. But my judge had primarily a criminal caseload. And what I determined and learned then, and which my experience tells me reviewing Supreme Court cases, is that the criminal law really hasn't changed since the Burger Court. And so my ability to apply the law, I don't think is, let me just cut it short. The criminal law is not that complex except when it gets to the sentencing. And that's where the action is.
Hello? Okay. Patsy Brown, Armed Forces Chamber. My question is for both of you. So recently, former Councilwoman Michelle Fure was suspended as Justice of the Peace following a federal indictment on fraud charges. What is your perspective about individuals without a legal background being appointed to positions of legal authority?
So I appreciate the question. I think your question really is about people without legal background being appointed. So I'm not going to comment on Fury's situation because as a judge and as a judicial candidate, we are bound by the canons. We have jurisdictions in Clark County where justices of the peace are not versed in law. They are not lawyers. My experience there has been wonderful as a litigator. I have appeared in front of those judges. What I think is critical is to have that foundation, that knowledge upon which you can rely. So I have civil knowledge, I have criminal knowledge, and I think that really, that should be the analysis. Is this person who is sitting on the bench making these profound decisions versed in what is going on in the courtroom? And I think the public, because I'm going, Department 14, my department will have a split docket. I think the public really needs to be concerned with having a judge who is not familiar with criminal, who has never spoken to a child victim of sexual assault, who has never handled a murder trial. So I think that's where the concern is, but it comes down to knowledge.
The question is about really about judges in rural areas, justice of the peace is I think what you were getting at. You know, that community selected Michelle Fure for that job. And it all depends on the individual. I don't know. I haven't heard any criticism of her rulings. And certainly, you know, she has quite a reputation, hair pulling with Victoria Seaman and all that sort of stuff. And I can't comment on that. That's in the paper. So it's, I think, a balance that a community has. When I was a lawyer, I appeared once in front of a woman who was formerly a fry cook out at Glendale. And she was one of the best judges I've ever seen. And she burned to death in a trailer accident. It was very terrible. And I'm pained that I can't remember her name. But she was far better than most of our district judges. I appeared there for a client, and she analyzed the contract issues unbelievably. I doubt she even had a high school degree. So I think rural people have to be, you know, Michelle was selected by those people out there, so.
Hi, Barbara with Veterans in Politics. And this is for both of you. How do you guys deal with your own personal views getting in the way when having to make a judgment that you don't agree with, even though it's in the eyes of the law?
That's my job. That's what I signed up to do. It is to follow the law without passion, without allowing my personal biases to come into the picture. Listen, this was not an easy decision to seek an appointment after a very successful 20-year career. It was, the appointment process is not easy. You are under extreme scrutiny. I have 2 young daughters who are watching. Hello. And, you know, I had to have a conversation with my daughters about all of a sudden becoming public figures. So it is an extremely fulfilling position, and that's why I'm seeking to retain my seat. And you know, this question hasn't been asked, but I certainly want to answer it because of the audience that we're in. My experience has allowed me to deal with veterans in our community and understand the concerns of the veteran community, including justice court, district court, veterans court. And I think that is such a critical element of the judicial system, because we are recognizing those unique characteristics that you all have and that you bring to the table. And one of the roles of district court judges is to make sure veterans are aware of those resources, have access to those resources, and are connected to those resources. So I wanted to use some of my time to make sure I talk about that platform. Thank you.
To get back to the question, what do you do with instances in which you may find some position repugnant? In the criminal law, you have to follow the law because it's given to us by the legislature. So you just have to buck up and live with it. With regard to civil law, you would be in most instances dealing with a statute, and you can't argue with the plain meaning of the statute. There are many instances in which a judge may, depending upon who the parties are and what they can afford, in fact, decide a case so that an appeal is taken to the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals can clarify. Now, test cases are very expensive, and a judge can't decide a case in a strange way just to make sure it's taken up on appeal. But judges do have to read the statute and apply it.
Okay, James Jonas, Director of Veterans in Politics. So since I asked the judge a follow-up question, Alan, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question based on one of your answers. When asked, you said that when you were asked why you were running, you said you weren't running per se against Tina, but in fact she's the sitting judge. You are in fact running against her. So now, knowing that she is the sitting judge, what do you feel is lacking in her being a judge for you to file against her? Please remember to address questions to the panel, not towards her too, please.
Absolutely. I'm sorry if I offended you earlier, but I did see her application to the Commission on Judicial Selection, and she was the only one who applied. The command is to send 3 up. In this peculiar instance, I've never seen anything like this, that it was just 1. But I looked at the box score that they put on the application to the Selection Commission, and what I found glaring was civil cases. What % of you practice civil cases? And she put 0. And that really alarmed me. I went back to her experience. Her law clerk matters in law school, I don't think appeared there, but I do think that she worked for 6 months, 22 years ago, for Bruce Alverson's law firm, which was a grind shop, and I don't know how anybody would learn any civil law. But the point is, I saw that box score with a big fat 0 in front of civil law, and believe me, you don't walk into a district court with 0 experience in civil law.
So, Judge, I know this is very, very tough to not address it too. Anyway, and you didn't. You did the best you could. Okay, I know I'm kind of starting trouble here, but that's what I do. Judge, can you just respond to that real quick? Oh, and another thing, when you said that this is going to become a split docket as far as civil and criminal, when will that occur?
Sometime in January. That will occur sometime in January, so we're right there. We're right around the corner. Again, I'm going to say it's disingenuous to say that I have no civil experience, right? I do have civil experience as an attorney in the state of Nevada. So I'm not sure what is being referred to that I completely lack civil experience. What I can tell you is partly based on, listen, I'm the only one who has judicial experience. And judicial experience, certainly including as a judge, matters. I am the incumbent, and I plan on earning the vote of the community, but that experience matters. My experience as a litigator matters. My experience protecting the community of Clark County, for whom I'm now asking for their support, matters.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we do have time for one more question, and then we'll go to you guys' closing statements. So, Frank, if you want to go ahead.
How you doing? Frank Friends, Veterans in Politics, Family Court Observer. So you guys talked a bit about experience and morality and things like that. And don't duck this question, please. We have a sitting Supreme Court justice right now in the state of Nevada who, when he was a prosecutor, put an innocent man in prison for pretty much life when he knew the gentleman was 863 miles outside of Nevada when the murder occurred. You've been a prosecutor, you said. You said you've helped with cases. If something like this came across your desk, not only would you take care of the thing, what would you do to go after somebody who spit on the judicial process in such a way that it causes people like me to lose faith in the system? If a prosecutor knew somebody was not in the state when a murder occurred, still proceeded to trial, still got him sentenced, what would you do about that?
So thank you for the question. I've actually been in those shoes. So I've had a case, and the case involved extremely serious charges. It was a series of robberies. We had the defendant who had been identified as the perpetrator of the crime, and my connections with our community enabled the defense attorney to come to me with information that she thought was critical. I have always been transparent in everything I do, and I think that is critical of our judiciary. You can walk into my courtroom, Department 14, on any single day, and you will be welcome. So like I said, I was in that position, and the defense attorney brought to me evidence that her client did not commit the crime. And it was a very easy decision for me. I dismissed the charges. So ethics, we are held to an extremely high ethical standard as prosecutors. We have the general rules for lawyers, and then we had even more rules for prosecutors. So I have spent 19 years of my career making sure ethics and doing the right thing have been number one, and that's going to carry over into the bench. And that has carried over into the bench.
Well, let's not sugarcoat it. You said you wanted an answer, and your concern was about Doug Herndon, very specifically. Right now, there's nothing that can be done about that except a complaint to the Judicial Discipline Commission and removal from office. That sounds harsh. That sounds like I'm speaking out of school, but Frank, you asked me a direct question. If all those things are true about that particular case, it's absolutely despicable. I don't know how to sugarcoat it any more than that. You know, there's a thing called prosecutorial arrogance. And I know when I was a law clerk and the prosecutors used to hang around the judge's office and they said, oh, such talent to convict a truly innocent person is the height of the prosecutorial skill. No, that's not, but that does enter into what occurs in prosecutors' offices every year, and this one's no different, the Clark County District Attorney's Office.
Okay, Patsy, we have one more question for you guys, and then we'll turn it over for your closing statements. Patsy, go ahead,
Okay,
please.
I'm gonna make it really quick. It's for the judge. Judge, I have your application for up right now for judicial position, the appointment, and I'm looking at it, and you stated a few times that you have civil experience, but on the application it says 95% for trial court criminal and 5% for appellate criminal. You put zeros in all of the civil. Can you explain why?
Absolutely, and that was a question being answered in relation to my current position. That was my career as a prosecutor. Certainly my representations are not, never have they ever been, that I've worked in the civil division of the Clark County District Attorney's Office. So when you look at my application, I outlined very clearly my experience with civil law firms, both as a student in undergrad, after passing the California bar exam and the Nevada bar exam. That's all indicated there. But that specific question was related to my experience in the Clark County District Attorney's Office, and I spent 19 years in the criminal division.
Okay, thank you. I just a personal note, I want to thank both of you. It is very difficult running for judge to be asked questions by panels because you do have to really balance our questions with the judicial canons and make sure you don't violate those. So I know it's tough. So I just want to say thank you to both of you. At this time, we'll go ahead and we'll start with the judge. You'll get 45 seconds for a closing statement. Just please say why you're the best person for the job. And then also, please, at the end, make sure you look into the camera and give your contact information so people can get involved with your campaign and help you. So, Judge, go ahead. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you. My name is Tina Talim, and I am your Department 14 judge. I am running to retain my seat. I am a 20-year veteran attorney. My experience is current, it is relevant. I have spent 19 years as a prosecutor where my goal was to serve the community of Clark County. My goal as a district court judge and what I do every day is serve the people of Clark County. That is everyone from Boulder City to Henderson to North Las Vegas to Mesquite to Las Vegas. I have practiced in all of those courts. I have appeared in almost every district court handling criminal matters in the 8th Judicial District Court. I am proud to have the support of so many community leaders, members of the civil bar, members of the criminal bar, our law enforcement, our governor. I hope I have earned your support. If you have any questions about me, I urge you to visit my website. That's www.judgetinatalim.com. My contact information is on there. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you would like to volunteer for my campaign, I would love to have you. You can also donate to my campaign. And if I have earned your support, you can vote for me in November. I will be on the ballot no matter where you live in Clark County. Judge Tina Talim, Department 14.
Alan.
My name is Alan Lefebvre. I'm a candidate for Department 14. My website spells out most of my platform, and it is Alan for Judge 14.com. I'm running because of my concern about our bench becoming depleted of people who are competent in civil law, and I'll say without fear of discipline from any court, that they're woefully unprepared over there to handle civil matters. And you would say, well, that just makes a difference to business people. No, it makes a difference to private individuals. And when a judge doesn't know what they're doing, it costs attorney's fees, delays, allowing late papers, having to ask for supplemental papers, a judge being indecisive and not ruling, and that's a huge source of attorney's fees back and forth. Thank you, and I appreciate very much that you've allowed me to speak to you today, and I hope for your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the candidates. Thank you to the panel members. I also want to give a special thanks to our sponsors, Shelley Berkeley, who's running for Las Vegas mayor, Carrie Maxey, who's running for Family Court Department N, and Monica Larson, who's running for Henderson City Council Ward 2. At this time, that concludes our endorsement interview for Clark County District Court Judge Department 14.